The rain didn't stop for 2 days. Heavy drops fell from the sky, turning the forest paths into mud rivers. Trees bent from the wind. Lightning flashed in strange colors, green and violet. On a small hill, under a thick metal roof, Jace sat alone in his repair shack. He was a human, a quiet mechanic who worked far from cities. He liked machines more than people. But that night, something changed. He was fixing a damaged drone when he heard it. A strange sound. Not thunder, not wind. A whimper. Jace stood up and walked to the doorway. The rain hit his jacket hard as he looked outside. The sky was dark and the forest below was almost invisible in the storm. Then he saw it. Something small moved near the edge of the clearing. It stumbled. Fell. Didn't get up. Jace grabbed his flashlight, pulled his hood over his head and ran out into the rain. As he got closer, he saw it was a creature, covered in wet fur. 4 legs, long tail, small frame. Its breathing was weak and shaky. It looked up at him with golden eyes that seemed too deep, too intelligent for a wild animal. Its side was bleeding. 1 leg was bent wrong. Jace paused. It could be dangerous. It could be diseased. It could be a trap. But it was hurt and alone. He pulled off his outer jacket and wrapped it around the creature. "Come on," he muttered. "I got you." Back in the shack, he laid the creature on a soft mat near the heater. He turned up the temperature, grabbed his first aid kit, and began cleaning the wound. The creature didn't fight. It just watched him with tired, glowing eyes. "You're not local," Jace said. "Haven't seen anything like you around here." The creature blinked once, then closed its eyes. Hours passed. Jace sat nearby, checking the vitals on an old scanner. The creature's pulse was slow but steady. He fed it water through a dropper. It drank weakly. Outside, the rain still poured. He spoke without thinking, just to fill the silence. "I was stuck in a storm like this once," he said. "Got lost during a freight job. Almost froze. No one came for me. I had to crawl into an empty power shell and wait 3 days. The creature didn't respond, but he felt like it was listening. At some point, he dozed off in his chair. The storm outside kept roaring. Then, something woke him. A soft sound. He opened his eyes. The creature was sitting up. Barely. Its fur was falling off in sheets like it was peeling. Steam rose from its skin, and underneath, there was no fur. There was blue skin, smooth, glowing faintly. The body was humanoid now, thin arms, curled legs, fragile fingers. Jace stared, frozen. What in the hell? The creature, no, the being, looked at him. Its mouth opened. A soft, breathless whisper came out. "Help. Me." Then it collapsed again. Jace sat still for several long seconds. His heart pounded in his chest. This wasn't an animal. This was a shifter. A shape changer. Rare. Dangerous. Or so he'd always heard. But this one was young, wounded, and scared. He slowly stood up, walked over, and carefully wrapped the blanket tighter around her now human shape. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said, voice low. "Just rest." The girl, if she was a girl, curled slightly toward the heat. She looked like she hadn't eaten in days. The scanner beeped again. Her vitals were rising, improving. Jace exhaled. "All right," he muttered. "We'll figure this out." Outside, the storm began to fade, but something else had started. Far off, deep in the forest, a signal blinked red on Jace's old receiver. Unregistered ship, moving slow, scanning low, looking for something. Jace didn't know yet, but what he had just saved wasn't just a shapeshifter. She was something far more important. And now, others were coming. The rain finally stopped the next morning. Mist hung in the trees like a ghost. Inside the shack, Jace moved quietly. He made hot tea and checked the scanners again. The strange ship he'd seen on the radar had disappeared, but That didn't make him feel safe. He glanced at the corner of the room. The girl was still asleep, if she was a girl. The creature from the night before was now fully transformed. She looked almost human, but not quite. Her skin was soft blue, glowing faintly. Her hair was long and silver, spread out across the blanket like spilled light. Strange symbols marked her arms, glowing lines, moving slowly like water under her skin. Jace had patched her wounds the best he could. He kept the heater running all night. He even gave up his own bed. He didn't know who or what she really was. But he knew one thing. She was no normal alien. Suddenly, her eyes opened. Golden and bright, like twin suns. Breaking through a storm, she sat up fast, panicked. Jace raised both hands. Easy. You're safe. I helped you, remember? She looked around, breathing hard, then looked down at herself, her true form, and whispered, No. Too soon. Jace stepped back a little. You changed. She nodded slowly. The fur. It was a skin, a cover. Why? Her eyes met his. To hide. She tried to stand but stumbled. Jace caught her. She was cold, freezing, even next to the heater. You're still healing, he said. Don't rush, but she shook her head. No time, they're close. Who? She closed her eyes. The ones who want me dead. Jace helped her sit back down. You're not just a shapeshifter, are you? No. She looked at him, quiet, sad. I am Alari of Netheria, daughter of the High Line, the last blood of the twin moons. Jace blinked. That's a royal title. She nodded once. Wait, he said. Netheria? I thought your people were gone. She smiled faintly. That's what they want the galaxy to believe. Jace stood frozen. He wasn't just hiding a wounded alien girl, he was hiding a princess, a living secret, and someone was still out there, searching for her. He sat across from her, keeping his voice low. Why were you alone in the forest? In the storm? My ship was shot down, she said. I was fleeing the syndicate. They want my line erased. If I die, no one can claim the crown. She looked away. I shifted into my creature form to hide. But I was too weak. I lost control. And if I hadn't found you, I would have died, she said softly. Jace rubbed the back of his neck. Okay, so what now? I can't stay here, Alari said. They will find me, they always do. He stood and paced the room. I have an old tunnel beneath the shack. It leads into the old route paths. Not safe, but it's hidden. Alari looked up at him, confused. Why are you helping me? Jace met her eyes. Because someone left me behind once. When I needed help, no one came. You don't deserve that. She stared at him for a long time. Then she nodded slowly. I believe you. He walked over and held out his hand. She reached for it with delicate fingers. For a moment, her glow passed into his skin, soft like a pulse of light. He helped her stand, and for the first time, she walked without falling. Later that night, Jace packed supplies, food, tools, a stun pistol he hadn't used in years. Alari sat near the tunnel entrance, wrapped in his jacket. Tomorrow, he said. We leave, before first light. She nodded, but her eyes were distant. What is it? He asked. She hesitated, then said, If I die, there will be no voice left for my people. My world will remain a memory, forgotten. Jace sat beside her. You won't die, he said. Not while I'm breathing. Outside, the wind picked up again, and in the far trees, a blinking red light moved, scanning, searching, waiting. And the ones hunting her were closer than they'd ever been. The wind was quiet that morning. Too quiet. Jace stood on the roof of his shack, a long scanner rod in his hand, watching the trees. The sky was pale, thin clouds floating like sheets of glass. Everything looked calm, but Jace felt it in his bones. Something was wrong. Inside the shack, Alari sat near the tunnel hatch, fully awake now. Her wounds had closed, her skin glowed steady. and she moved with more strength. She wore one of Jace's spare shirts and wrapped herself in a gray blanket. Her golden eyes scanned the window. She felt it too. "They're here," she whispered. Jace climbed down the ladder and entered quickly. "How do you know?" he asked. She didn't answer. Instead, she pointed at the far wall, where his old radio receiver was blinking red. "Unregistered signals detected, approaching at low altitude, 3 lifeforms." Jace cursed under his breath. "How did they find you so fast?" Alari closed her eyes. "The skin I shed. Maybe they traced it. Or maybe they never stopped. Searching," Jace said. He pulled the mat off the tunnel hatch and opened it. "Go now," he said. She looked at him. "What about you?" "I'll delay them." "You know how to follow the markers?" She nodded slowly. "Yes." "Then don't. Stop. If I don't show up, keep moving until you reach the cliffs." Alari stood but didn't move. "They'll kill you." Jace smirked. "They can try." He watched her vanish into the tunnel, then closed the hatch and dropped the mat back in place. Moments later, a low hum filled the air outside. Jace stepped to the door and opened it. A small black skimmer ship hovered just above the clearing. Dust and leaves swirled beneath it. The ramp opened. 3 figures stepped out, bounty hunters. They wore gray armor, with red visors, no names, no flags, only silence. One stepped forward, voice distorted through a mask. "We have reason to believe a high-value target passed through this zone." Jace leaned against the doorframe. "No one comes here." "Unregistered energy signature was detected," the hunter said. "Thermal signs. Non-human." Jace shrugged. "Probably a frost cat. They glow in the cold." The hunter tilted his head. "You're the only life form registered at this outpost." "Lucky me." Another hunter stepped inside. He scanned the floor, the air, the walls. Jace moved slowly, keeping his hands visible. "You're wasting your time," he said. "Nothing here but junk and rust." But the scanner beeped. The hunter looked toward the corner, the tunnel hatch. He started walking toward it. Jace's heart slammed in his chest. He stepped in front of the mat. "You break that floorboard, the whole shack loses power. Old wiring. Dangerous." The hunter didn't stop. He reached out. Then, Jace moved. Fast. He slammed the old wrench in his hand against the scanner. Sparks flying. The hunter shouted, falling back. The others raised weapons. Jace dove behind the table as the first blaster fired, burning through the wall. Outside, birds scattered into the sky. The shack shook. But Jace rolled, grabbed the old stun pistol from the drawer and fired once. Direct hit. One hunter dropped, body twitching. The other 2 moved fast, too fast. Jace ran for the back exit, ducking just as a bolt scorched the wall above his head. He burst outside into the trees. Behind him, the hunters followed. One shouted into a comm. "Target trail confirmed. Send secondary drone." Down below in the tunnel, Alari heard it all. Shouts, blasts, crashes above. Her hands clenched the tunnel rail. Then she made a choice. She turned back. Jace ducked behind a tree, out of breath. He had no more shots left. One of the hunters stepped into view, aiming. "Where is she?" The voice growled. Before Jace could answer, a blinding pulse of light shot from the trees. The hunter flew backward, crashing through the brush. Alari stepped out, both hands glowing with gold-blue energy. Her eyes were fierce now, no longer scared. "Touch him again," she said coldly, "and you'll never speak again." The last hunter turned and ran toward the skimmer ship, shouting into his comm. Alari raised her hands again, but Jace stopped her. "Let him go," he said. "They'll report back." "I know," she said, "and now they know I'm not alone." They stood in the clearing, breathing hard. Around them, the trees burned at the edges. Jace looked at her. "You came back. You saved me," she said. Now I return the favor. He smiled. We're even then? Alari shook her head. No, we're only just beginning. High above, in orbit, a ship's scanner lit up. A new message was sent. Target alive. Power awakened. Human ally confirmed. Increase the bounty. The ground still steamed where Alari had struck with her glowing hands. The bounty hunters were gone. One captured, one wounded, and one escaped. But Jace knew they would return. Next time with more, bigger guns, better scanners, no questions. He opened the hatch to the tunnel again. Alari stepped in without a word, her glowing skin casting soft blue light along the metal ladder. They dropped into the dark. Below, the path was narrow, low, and old. Jace hadn't been down here in years. This was part of an old treeway system, he explained. Before the mining companies ruined the routes, locals used it to move through the forest without disturbing the canopy creatures. Alari looked around. It feels alive. It should. These routes still pulse energy, just barely. She touched the wall and the pulse grew stronger. For a moment, the tunnel shimmered with silver veins. Jace stared. What was that? Alari didn't answer right away. Then she said, My people were born in forests like this. They walked in silence for a while, their footsteps echoing softly through the hollowed paths. Water dripped from the ceiling. Bioluminescent moss lit their way like tiny stars. After some time, Jace asked, You didn't tell me everything, did you? Alari glanced at him. About what? Your powers, your glow, that blast you fired at the bounty hunter. She sighed, voice quiet. No, I didn't. They reached an open chamber, an old rest hub once used by travelers. Stone benches circled a glowing pool. Jace sat. Alari stood, hands folded. My kind are not just shifters, she said at last. We're energy bearers. Our royal bloodlines can command life energy, bend light, heal, destroy. She looked at him, her golden eyes soft. But it comes with a cost. Too much use, and it burns our body. Jace frowned. That's why you collapsed when I found you, she nodded. I used my energy to escape the Syndicate's trap. I took a creature's shape and sealed my power, but my body couldn't hold it for long. Jace leaned forward, elbows on his knees. So why would anyone want to kill someone who can heal and protect forests? She sat down beside him now. Because the Syndicate can't control us. And if they can't control you, they destroy you. Her voice shook. They burned my world. Killed my sisters. My mother scattered the stars trying to hide me. And now, I'm all that's left. Jace looked down at the floor. Then he reached into his bag and handed her a small protein bar. No throne here, he said, but I've got food. She laughed softly. Thank you. He grinned. Protector's duties. Got to keep the runaway princess alive. Suddenly, the tunnel lights blinked, then flickered off. Jace stood, hand on the wall. Powers being jammed, he said. They found the entrance. Alari closed her eyes. They brought a tracer, maybe even a crawler. Jace grabbed his bag and flashlight. Come on, we've got to move fast. He turned to the side wall and pulled at a loose metal grate. Behind it, a narrow slide tunnel, half collapsed but still usable. It's not safe, he said. But it'll drop us near the river roots. We follow the current from there. Alari nodded. You trust the forest a lot, she said. No, Jace said. But I trust you now. That energy earlier, you could have killed them all. But you didn't. She met his eyes. We don't take life unless it's the last choice. They dropped into the tunnel. The slide was fast and rough. Jace scraped his shoulder on the stone. Alari caught herself with glowing hands, slowing their fall. They landed in a dim cave full of roots and shallow water. Strange lights flickered under the surface. Fish, or maybe something older. Alari touched the water. It glowed. I remember. This kind of river, she whispered. It fed the trees on my homeworld. We used to sing here. Jace raised an eyebrow. Sing to water? To thank it, she said. He smiled. Well, if we survive this, you'll have to teach me. From far behind them, a deep vibration began to rise. Metal grinding. Rock cracking. Jace tensed. That's a crawler. Alari stood, eyes glowing. They're tunneling. He looked around quickly, then pointed to the high ledge. We climb, lose them in the root ceiling. She took his hand, and together, they climbed into the hidden wild of the forest veins. Behind them, machines dug deeper. But above them, something ancient watched. A root spirit, half tree, half mist, drifted through the upper chamber. It had seen who she really was, and for the first time in years it began to sing. The trees changed as they moved deeper. Their roots widened. The ground grew soft, wet. Jace and Alari stepped into a different world, the gray swamps. Mist floated just above the dark water. Strange glowing insects buzzed through the air. Every step they took sank into the soft earth with a quiet squish. This place is alive, Alari whispered. Too alive, Jace muttered, adjusting the strap on his bag. Let's not stop. They moved slowly. Jace's boots slipped on a patch of algae. Alari caught his arm. Her fingers were warm against his cold jacket. He glanced at her. You've healed fast. She smiled a little. Not fast enough. Behind them, the sound of machines had faded. But Jace didn't relax. He didn't trust silence anymore. After 2 hours, they reached an island of dry land, small, covered in twisted trees. Jace wiped sweat from his brow. We rest here, he said. 15 minutes? Alari nodded. She sat cross-legged, placing her hands against the ground. Glowing vines rose slowly from the soil and wrapped around her arms. Not to bind her, but to connect. Jace watched in silence as she whispered, in a soft voice, an old song, slow and deep. What are you doing? He asked. Calling, she said without looking. To see if the swamp will help us. He raised an eyebrow. And will it? She smiled faintly. Maybe. But the swamp answered in a different way. The air grew colder. Birds stopped chirping. The sea water stilled. Jace stood, eyes scanning the mist. Then, a crack. A sharp sound. Too clean to be natural. His hand went to his belt, grabbing his stun knife. Alari, he said. Up, now. But it was already too late. A net burst from the trees. Metal, cables wrapped around Jace, pulling him into the air. He hit the trunk hard, gasping in pain. Alari jumped back, hands glowing, but something hit her leg, a stun dart. She fell to one knee, panting, her glow flickering. From the mist, 5 figures emerged. Black armor, red visors, elite hunters. One of them, taller than the others, removed his helmet. A cold face, scarred, empty eyes. Princess Alari, he said, we've come to bring you home. She stood, even weak, with fire in her voice. This is not my home. The hunter chuckled. Then your grave will do. He raised a blaster. Jace struggled in the net. Don't you touch her. A punch to his ribs shut him up. Alari's hands flickered again. The hunter raised an eyebrow. Energy's too unstable. You'll burn yourself before you burn us. He stepped closer. You should have stayed hidden. Then the swamp answered. A low rumble echoed from the water. The hunter paused. What? The ground shook. Vines rose from the mud, thick, glowing, angry. Roots burst from the trees, swinging like arms. One hunter was pulled screaming into the water. Another was slammed into a trunk. Jace dropped from the net as the tree bent to let him go. He hit the ground hard, but he was free. Alari stood in the middle of the chaos. Her arms were raised high, her voice chanting words Jace didn't understand. The swamp glowed brighter. The roots obeyed her, but her glow grew wild, too strong, too bright. Her body trembled. Blood trickled from her nose. Jace crawled to her. Alari, you have to stop. They'll kill you, she shouted. Not if you die first. He grabbed her arms, pulling them down gently. Her eyes, now glowing white, locked onto his voice softened. You saved me before. Let me save you now. Her glow faded. The vines lowered. The last hunter ran. His armor cracked. His fear stronger than his mission. Silence returned to the swamp. Only the sound of water dripping from the trees remained. Jace held her as she collapsed into his arms. Her breath was shallow, her skin cold. But she was alive. He carried her to the dry patch of ground and wrapped her in his coat. Then he whispered, You said you don't take life unless it's the last choice. She smiled weakly. It was nearly the last. He brushed her silver hair back. Next time, just let the roots do the work. Hours passed before she woke again. The swamp glowed softly around them like it was guarding their rest. Jace sat beside her, holding her hand. Still with me? He asked. Yes, she whispered, because of you. And deep beneath the swamp, something ancient stirred. A creature made of vines and stone watched the two figures on its land and marked them not as enemies, but as allies of the wild. The sun rose red over the cliffs. Jace and Alari stood at the edge of the great drop, where the forest ended and the stone ridges began. Below, the mist swirled across the river far beneath. The sky stretched wide and clear for the first time in days. They had made it out of the swamp, but they weren't free yet. Behind them, engines rumbled. A dark shadow passed overhead. The Syndicate cruiser appeared in the sky, sleek, massive, armed. It hovered above the forest like a hunting hawk. Jace stepped forward. They brought a warship? Alari nodded slowly. This was never just about me escaping. She turned her golden eyes to the sky. They want to erase my name, my blood, my people. A beam of light dropped from the cruiser to the cliff edge, a teleport gate. From it, armored soldiers stepped out. 20, maybe more, and behind them, a tall woman in a silver mask. She removed it slowly. Cold blue skin, hard eyes. Alari of Netheria, she said. Surrender, and we will end this cleanly. Alari stepped forward. No, the woman frowned. Then you choose death. Jace raised his blaster. She's not alone. The woman looked at him, then laughed softly. You? A mechanic from a dirt world station? Alari raised one hand. He's more than that. He made a choice when others looked away. She took another step forward, then stopped, and slowly removed the cloak from her shoulders. The soldiers paused. Her skin began to glow again, brighter than before. Her feet lifted an inch off the ground. The wind around her shifted. Even the birds in the cliffs fell silent. Her voice echoed, not loud but strong. I am Alari, daughter of the twin moons. Last of the royal thread, keeper of the light song. A shimmer spread from her body, a wave of golden energy. And then, the sky answered. Far above the Syndicate cruiser, space bent like liquid. And from the fold in the stars, a shape emerged, a Nytherian flagship. Massive, shining, covered in flowing light symbols. Alive. The soldiers turned in shock. Alari's glow grew brighter. My people were not dead, she said. We were hiding, waiting for my return. The masked woman stepped back, whispering, Impossible. Alari raised her hand again. Light flowed from her fingers like ribbons. Not heat, not fire, but memory. The ground beneath the soldiers shifted. Their weapons shut down, their boots stuck to the stone. I won't kill you, she said, because that is not our way. But know this. She turned her glowing eyes on the woman. Your masters will fall, because they built their empire on forgetting, and we remember everything. The teleport gate blinked. The soldiers vanished, pulled back in retreat. The cruiser turned sharply and flew away. No weapons fired, no war, because they all understood now. The princess was no longer hiding. Jace stood in stunned silence. You could have done that days ago, Alari turned to him, her glow fading slowly. I couldn't, not until I chose to stand alone. My people had to see me rise, not run. He nodded slowly. And now? Now they'll follow, she said. The Netherian ship landed gently nearby. Its crew stepped out, glowing-skinned beings in smooth robes, heads bowed. One of them knelt before Alari. Your Highness, he said. The bloodline breathes again. She looked at Jace, then said softly, I didn't do it alone. A golden path of light formed between the ship and the cliff edge. Alari took one step toward it, then paused. She turned back. Come with me. Jace blinked. What? You saved me, stood for me, fought beside me. In my world, she said, that makes you more than a hero. He chuckled. I'm just a mechanic. She smiled. Then come fix a kingdom. He looked at her hand, looked at the glowing ship, looked at the forest behind him, the quiet life he once called enough. Then he took her hand. Guess I always wanted to see the stars. And together, they walked into the light. The cliff behind them vanished in the glow. Ahead, a future neither of them expected, but both had chosen. The ceiling above him was made of soft, glowing crystal. Jace opened his eyes slowly. His chest ached, but the pain was dull, fading. He blinked again and sat up. The room wasn't his shack. It wasn't even a room. It was a healing cradle aboard a royal ship. He looked down at himself. Fresh clothes, wrapped injuries, a glowing thread tied around his wrist. The smell in the air was clean, like sunlight and water. He wasn't on Zaroon anymore. He was in orbit. A soft chime sounded. The door opened. Alari walked in, cloaked in flowing silver robes now, her skin glowing brighter, her energy more stable than ever before. She looked different, but also the same stronger, confident, alive. You're awake, she said gently. Jace smiled. Not dreaming, huh? Not this time. She stepped closer and sat beside him. You were hurt. Your body took too much shock when you shielded me from the pulse. You could have died. You told me not to die before, he teased. She smiled. And you listened. Jace looked out the side window. Endless stars floated beyond the glass. In the distance, 3 moons spun slowly over a deep blue world. Where are we? Netheria's hidden system, Alari said. Our exile ended the moment I called them. The ship that appeared was our last hidden ark. It waited decades for my signal. She looked at him, her expression softening. And you gave me the strength to send it. Jace sat up straighter. But what happens now? Alari reached into her cloak and pulled out a golden box. Inside, a chain with a smooth crystal pendant, shaped like a drop of water. She placed it in his hand. This marks you as chosen by bloodlight, protector by act, not birth. Jace frowned. You're giving me a title? She shook her head. No, I'm giving you a place. The doors opened again. This time, 2 Netherian advisors entered and bowed deeply. One spoke with a deep, calm voice. By royal law, he is now bonded by honor to the crown. Jace blinked. Wait, what? Alari's voice was careful now. In our culture, saving a royal life without being ordered to creates a soul mark. He stared at her. What now? A life debt, she explained, but deeper, the kind that forms a spiritual link. He paused, then smirked. So I'm... what? A guard? Alari met his gaze. No, you're something more. She stood, held out her hand, and said clearly, Consort. The room went silent. Jace sat frozen. For a long moment. You mean, like a husband? Yes, she said. If you accept. He looked at her, unsure if he should laugh or faint. Then he looked at the pendant in his hand. I was just trying to fix my drone, he muttered. Then I saved a sick animal. Now I'm being proposed to by a glowing alien princess. Alari. tilted her head. Is that a no? He looked up at her again, remembering the forest, the fight, the swamp, the pain, her voice, her eyes. No, he said. It's a yes. The ceremony was held above the clouds. They stood on a crystal platform, floating in open sky, the stars bright overhead. Alari wore robes that shimmered like water. Jace stood beside her in sleek armor gifted by her people. He didn't feel out of place. Not anymore. A voice boomed across the sky. He who gave warmth to the lost. She who rose alone to become light. Now they walk side by side, not by law, but by choice. When it ended, Alari took his hand and whispered, "You were the only one who saw me when I was just a broken creature." He smiled. "And you were the only one who looked at me like I wasn't just some forgotten mechanic." Later, they stood on the viewing deck watching their world spin below. Jace spoke quietly. "I thought I saved you that night in the rain." She turned to him. "You did. But now," Alari leaned her head on his shoulder, "now I save you back. Every day." From the stars above, stories spread like wildfire, of a girl who once hid in a broken shell, of a human who gave her shelter, of a bond not forged by fate but by choice, and of two souls who refused to let each other die cold and alone. He didn't just fix what was broken, he became part of something greater than any kingdom. Because the creature he saved turned out to be his future.